What's up, everybody? It's your favorite pugilist's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the Magic Square Masterpiece Scaled Heavy Gunner, which is their upsized Brawl from their Legends offering. Now, this is technically on loan to me from Scott M. However, I think I'm probably going to buy this, and that's not to say it's perfect, folks, because it's certainly not. But I do think it's time for a change for me, so I do think I'm going to buy this. So it may not be on loan from Scott M, because I may buy this one from him and then let him buy a new one. You know what I mean? That would be the gentlemanly thing to do. And if nothing else, I am a gentleman. But anyway, I know a lot of people want me to take a look at this guy, and I do as well. But in order to do so, we need to first start with accessories. He comes with a gun. The gun is sculpted nicely. I honestly can't tell if it's painted or not because the paint is relatively subtle, but I don't think it is. And you have a peg here, and then a handle that can flip down in its stead. The peg can peg into the back of his turret there, or the top, depending on your point of view. The handle can peg into the palm of the hand in typical Masterpiece fashion, and the fingers wrap around it. That gun can be pegged into the turret in the same spot that I showed you for the backpack. You get the kind of double turret, which is, you know, relatively iconic for him. You do have a peg here, and then this should fold down to reveal a handle as well. As absurd as it is, that handle can be held as well, and then you can have the double barrel gun if you'd like. For vehicle mode, just flip your handle in and then utilize these two tabs. Plug that right in, and then you can have your two big guns in the back, which is kind of iconic. He also comes with two spotlights, and they are painted gray, and then maybe have a translucent, is that translucent piece inside for the light itself? Looks good enough. We have two pegs, but they don't really fit nicely in the back. I'm guessing due to lack of consideration of the layer of paint. I'm sure you can force it. I'm not going to. And for vehicle mode, obviously, these would plug in the same spot. But it's just not a great fit, and I'm not going to force it. It's not worth it to me. But there you have it. And let's look at the figure, and we'll get in tight on the head sculpt for Dennis. And it looks good. I think there's a lot of character that comes through in this. Magic Square does have a little bit more heroic proportions than cartoon proportions. It's even a closer blend between what Fans Toys does to the toon, which is why I prefer a lot of what Fans Toys does. But nonetheless, I'm glad that this is a Magic Square product that I'm holding for that reason. So the visor and the mask are painted. I believe the helmet is painted too. It's on a hinge swivel. You get insane up. You get a, you know, whatever is possible down. You get the swivel. No confused Brawl face because it's not a ball peg. All right. I like the sculpt work too in the crest of the helmet. That all works. All right, so then we have the shoulders, which is where some of my aesthetic choices get not for me, to put it lightly. So it just doesn't look realistic enough. I like when the realistic vehicle attributes come through a bit more. This looks just a little too cookie cutter for me. The shoulders have tons of articulation though. So you have a ratcheted up to just shy of 90 degrees. You have a swivel around, and then you have a double jointed butterfly joint to get you all the way across the body. You have a bicep swivel. You have a single hinged elbow that gets you past 90 degrees. You have a wrist swivel. Fingers leave a little bit to be desired. They're all on ball pegs, and then they are actually at least pinned for the secondary hinge. So that's at least nice. And then the thumb is on a ball peg and has a secondary pinned hinge as well. Because of the ball cage, so to speak, because of the ball pegs, you can splay his fingers out a bit. Which is nice. And then you have the same kind of cheesy tank details in the forearm. It's painted. It's a subtle, glossy paint, but I think it looks good enough. It's reminiscent somewhat of Takara in that regard, in my opinion. And not a single sculpted detail on there, aside from the treads, which don't look good in my opinion. All right. Chest, we do get a little bit of definition and stuff in the chest, as well as these details here in the bottom, so that's all good. You get these bits here. I'm not sure if they're cartoon accurate or not. Don't really care. I do like them. You have a waist swivel. You have an ab crunch on a double hinge to 90 degrees. Very nice. The hips are where trouble starts to come into paradise, so I'm pretty happy with the upper body, with the exception of the tank treads and the lack of detail. The hips are where trouble comes in. So you have hip skirts, which is nice enough. We'll get them up and out of the way. We'll get the back ones out too. Okay, so the hips are on a swing down universal joint. So the joint swings down. The upper hip joint falls into the pelvis, which is fine. Gets you an extreme range up and back to there. So not technically the full Monty, but a far more extreme range on the front, which is technically what matters. All right, so we'll put that back. There is an inconsistent ratchet there. There's also a ratchet out to the side. And I just messed that up. So yes, I'm definitely buying Scott one now. So use caution there. The plastic is not the best, so that wasn't paint chipping. That was carving away at the actual plastic itself. Anyway, you do get the universal joint out to the side. You get to about there. That ratchet is not smooth at all. It is not a well done ratchet in any way, shape, or form. And there's a good bit of play on the plastic before you activate the ratchet. So it's actually the worst possible scenario there. All right, thigh swivel built around the universal. We get one little sculpted detail line in the thigh. I'll take it where I can get it. You get a double jointed knee for the full run, which is nice. And then down here, we'll back out a bit. Oh, we already backed out. Down here, we get some sculpted detail, which is nice to see. Nice on the foot, just the little line work. Stuff like that always helps. Cheesy details on the side. Barren wasteland here of space that they could have put stuff, but they didn't because it's not in the cartoon, and I hate that. Ankles. So you get no ankle tilts, but you do get an ankle rocker. So I guess take what you can get there. And then you have him from the back. I've got this come out a little bit, but there he is. You know, clean. Right? Nice sculpted detail on the top of the tank. That's the kind of stuff I like to see. There it is, size comparison wise, next to the unique toys offering, which I think is interesting to look at, you know, over time. Now, this unique toys one is quite old now and was from a different era, but it has been my Brawl for years. But I do think this is a significant enough of a change to justify an upgrade. And there's things I like about the unique toys in terms of build far better than this Magic Square. But I think aesthetically, which is what my collection comes down to, at least 90%, there's enough here to justify it for me. But let me show you what it's like next to a current masterpiece size offering. So there it is next to a Fans Toys Stunticon. So it's slightly taller, and I'm kind of okay with the Combaticons being slightly taller than the race cars. Do you know what I mean? Or the sports cars. So that kind of works for me. Yeah, I'm probably in. Despite its flaws, I'm probably in. All right, let's do it like Truett used to do it. So you got these flaps here. Make sure the hands are in a fist and fold them in. And spin the bicep 180 and collapse. That should be relatively intuitive so that the treads line up. We're going to do the same on this side over, you know. Open. Oh, I did the wrong side, but look at that. It's just pegged together. Oh, well, hey, it's about me taking a little bit more time, right? Open this, rotate the hand, collapse it inside of the tread, close this back up, spin it so that it lines up, and collapse. You can kind of extend your shoulder joints and just get them out of the way. We have to unpeg this neck flap. Now, this is using dovetails, or it's best to use dovetails, isn't it? And I'm not sure how that translates over to MP from the Legends. Not necessarily because of the design, but more so because they're not using those more nylon type materials. Anyway, untab that and then separate your torso area, you know. We got to get this all the way out. Let's see. Open that. What am I doing wrong here? There. It's a double hinge, so just make sure the double hinge can get the clearance it needs. Then fold that out. Fold that out. Take the head, fold it flat, and then fold this flat back. Tuck that in, and then this piece slides in. And then you can bring up these flank pieces. Connect them, and then your tank treads here tab in at 2 different places. There's a peg for there and a hole, and then a male here and a female there. All right. And just utilize all of those moving joints that the shoulders have to offer. All right. Done and done. Extend the waist, spin the torso 180. Then get that out of the way. Make sure that's nice and solid. Take your turret, bring it out, fold it back, slide it in, and then we have another set of dovetails that we have to find. You can rotate the turret to the side so that you can get a better visual on what you have to do. This is another one of those instances where I'm not sure that just upscaling it is going to do the trick. There we go. Then you can rotate the turret to the front, collapse the abdominal area back in, and we'll move on to the legs. Much like the Legends, this is kind of where the bacon is made. So you got to open up this panel here, and it is a bit of a bear. But there, open it up. And then that will allow you to bring out this whole front flap here. At which point you can extend all of this, right? Typical kind of magic square stuff here where you got an awful lot to kind of straighten and flip and flap and blah, blah, blah. So this extends. You want to straighten all of this out. You want to fold this, flip that to kind of build the tank, basically, that was hidden up inside of his leg. Slide the treads down, spin them 180, and you can slide them up, but you also have to get this piece out and set that over on that side. We'll collapse here, and this is going to sit alongside the side of it, I believe. Let me, okay, there's a couple things we got to do here. Bring these over. This whole panel here is on a double hinge, so sit that inside of it, which will allow you to fold this piece over. So you have one piece flipped in and one piece flipped to the side. This is the next section that we have to deal with. The first step is to sort of, you can use this rocker. This piece here needs to fold in and finish the kind of look of the foot there. This piece needs to come out. The foot needs to come up, or the toes rather, and then this piece bends back, and this will tab in. All right. This section here flips up. It was tabbed in down here. Just use that to bring this up, but use the same tab, which requires you to rotate this, so that that tab will tab back in. Make sure the knee is shifted forward so that this joint for the knee and that joint for the knee are offset at a 45-degree angle. We do have to fold in one of these panels here for this long gray piece, so to speak. Make sure that's down there. This piece needs to lay along the thigh, and then the other piece sits over top of it. At which point you bring your other section here alongside it, tab in where it is appropriate. There's a dovetail here underneath. There's a tab here. And here. All right. And then you have this section. It's pretty obvious where that goes, I guess. That falls into place. And then you have a series of tabs alongside the side. And I will get that so you don't have to waste time with watching me do it, but that will be one side. Okay, let's see if I can do this in one take. No promises. So we're gonna get this little Henri connection loose here. And after that's loose, that will allow us to break off this entire front section. I said break off this entire front section and unfurl the typical Magic Square collapsed motif. So we're going to fold out all those collapsed pieces, including this little tricky one here. Then we are going to flip our treads. So they're on two pegs, I believe. We're going to unpeg them, or one peg and a couple tabs, and then tab them back in. We have this piece also to get up and out and around. It's on it slides in and out here if you need extra space. We're going to go ahead and fold that panel up first this time. We're going to collapse that into place. We're going to make sure, actually let's move to this. So we're going to take a look at take this piece, wrap it in to fill out that foot motif. We're going to rock this to the side. We're also going to rock it like a hurricane. And then we're going to flip this piece up and over. And we're going to move the toe up on top so that when we collapse it back down, it will tab back into the side of the foot. Okay. Now we have this section here. This is tabbed in. We're going to untab it. We're going to bring it up. And we're going to tab it. We're going to rotate that piece so that we can tab it back in. We're a little tabby cat. All right. We have to sort this piece out here as well. So we're going to flip that to the side. We're going to flip one piece in. We're going to flip it back. And we're going to flip this piece down. If this gets in the way, it's on a double hinge. Just sit it down in itself, and that will give you the clearance. At which point we want to make sure that our knees are aligned properly. So make sure that the upper knee joint is pushing as forward as it can, and the lower knee joint is as straight as it can be. Collapse that back down. And we're going to take this piece, we're going to fold in the first section there. And we're going to sit that down. We're going to rack this back in, or rock this, not rack. This back in. And it has a series of tabs, including this dovetail one here. And we also want to connect these two now. And then we have a tab here and here that also need to find their place. 1, 2. And then this section sits back into the rear swings in and connects at a series of tabs. I want to say it's 4. It could be 3. And I'm not going to take too much of your time with that. But let's see. There. I think we got her. That's it. So, I'll get it. I think we extend the barrel as well. I'll get it cleaned up and we'll take a look at it. And there it is in vehicle mode. I don't love it. It's clean. You know, I'm guessing that's the point, but I'm not impressed. So, I think this, right? Like, this looks very cheesy to me. The added wheels at the bottom don't do much for it. I'd almost rather it didn't roll and try to save some sort of grace than have this look that cheesy. It's just one of those things that they would have got double bang for their buck about kind of putting a little bit more effort into the sculpt and look of the tracks, both in robot and in vehicle mode. And as a result, it just looks a little cheesy. Same goes for lack of detail in this upper portion here. This entire section is hidden inside the bot mode, so they could have put a little bit of more love into that as well. Outside of that, same kind of thing goes for the side here. This is all hidden in leg mode. Wouldn't have killed them to put a little extra detail in that, make this tank look a little bit more dangerous. And I think that's all I have criticism-wise. But yeah, I'm not crazy about it. Other than that, the turret spins. You can lift it up a little bit, make life a little easier. You won't have to worry about scratching up against your plastic and then sit it down as need be. That's a nice touch. The barrel goes up and down. No issues there, and so on and so forth. Only other thing I have left to do is to show you what he looks like next to Tiger Tracks, and you know, not for nothing, I mean, he's about the size of an MP car. And then go to combine mode. So we're gonna lift up the turret, we're gonna spin it 180, and then we're gonna collapse it. This is just to avoid any paint issues. We're gonna collapse the barrel also. We're going to take this piece and open it up. There we go. And we have to collapse these. So we'll take one at a time. Remember, they untab and then we rotate. And tab back in. Untab. Rotate. Little tricky. Tab back in. You get the point. Let's see. And then we have our foot, which we haven't talked about in accessories because I figured we'd just cover it now. It comes in the box with this part collapsed. Just extend it. Has a little bit of an on reconnection. You can lay this flat. You've got 3 points of a connection there. You've got 3 points of a connection there. It slides in. You got 2 tabs here, 2 females there. That just comes up. Tabs in, and now your big bad battling Bruticus is ready. And we can just go ahead and talk about him now. No need for a cut. Yeah, you know, it looks the part. It looks very simplistic. This is what people are liking these days. It's not my cup of tea. I will be keeping my Zeta. This is just from my robot modes. If I get this, I can assure you at this point, I'm going to get this. But there it is once again next to Tiger Track. So he should be a pretty big fella. I actually have Ironhide still here, you know, so there's that. So, you know, he should be right in line with your kind of masterpiece styled combiners, which is nice. I hope they don't let off the gas. It offers a lot of possibilities if they continue this. Final thoughts wise, we'll start with the negatives. Those hips are not nice. Be very mindful of the hip skirts. There's no room for error. Make sure everything is out of the way before you go to manipulate it. You will damage the plastic or at least the paint. But that's not where trouble ends there. The universals are not well designed in terms of their ratcheting system and should have been completely rethought. That could have been something they could have done. I don't think there's any excuse for that. I'm also not crazy about cheesy tank details showing through in robot mode or tank mode. I'd prefer the more realistic tank sculpting going into both the shoulders and the side of the legs. It's cutesy enough for Legends mode, but you're in the big leagues now. The same kind of goes for like the inner calves, where they could have taken advantage of a lot of blank canvas, and they chose not to. Once again, cutesy for Legend scale, but you're in the big leagues now. There are a few tolerance issues. I think some of it is due to paint. A good example of that would be where the spotlights plug into tank mode. I also would have liked ankle tilts up, but I think that is the limit of my articulation criticism. And, you know, I'm not crazy about the alt mode. I just think they sacrifice anything that looks remotely interesting about it in an attempt to satisfy people that want something to look like a cartoon for children. I get the robot mode, but I feel like most people would be okay if the tank looked a little bit more realistic. They have been in the past, and there was room to do it. And since you're not paying for a whole lot of new design, it seems like, you know, they could have done it. And that's about all I got, honestly. Oh, one other thing that I would mention is the dovetails. So there's a lot of dovetails in the transforming engineering of this guy. That's not at all a problem when you have the nylon plastic. That just creates different problems. It's a little bit of a problem when you have this style plastic, which is a little bit more ornery in the sense of getting them to kind of utilize and getting them free. Once again, small design change they could have made, being as though they're not having to change an awful lot, in my opinion. Moving on to the positives, even though some of it is too simplistic for my taste, I still think the sculpt on this is pretty good. There is something mature and heroic that they're able to capture in proportions that I don't see very often outside of fans' toys. The plastic is a step up in the right direction, but it still isn't quite there yet. But at least it's a step up. It comes with the appropriate accessories, and I do appreciate that it's painted head to toe. The articulation works wonders, particularly the shoulders and abdominal joints, but the hands are no slouch either. You also get double jointed knees and more than 90 on the elbow. Nothing to turn your nose up at. And then as far as like the transformation goes, I mean, there's a couple things with the dovetails that are frustrating, but it's very smooth, intuitive. There's a couple little tricky parts of getting that knee lined up just right and all that, but for the most part, pretty straightforward. You know, obviously if you've done the Legends, you're already a little bit familiar with it. I didn't want to rip my hair out or whatever I have. I guess I have hair on my arms. I could have ripped that out, but I didn't want to rip any of it out. So that has to say something. I found it to be a much easier experience than, say, the X-Transbots Ironhide that we just looked at recently. So yeah, this is a recommend from me because there's nothing enough bad about it to not make me recommend it. However, be very cautious of those hips. Be very cautious of damaging your figure. They don't have it quite ironed out yet, but here's hoping that they do, because if they figure this out, the sky becomes the limit with Magic Square, in my opinion. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.